Welcome, 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 everybody. It is so great to see each and every one of you. It is Wednesday, April 15th, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, or whatever time it happens to be where you are because you are watching us right now. It is time for the video series Outwitting the Devil, the book by Napoleon Hill and featuring our special professor who we have called on every single week to do this amazing overview of this incredible book. And honestly, it is, yeah, just basically incredible. We've been able to do so much and to share so much that, when you go back over this and start from the beginning, everything will fit together. So let's go ahead and get started and allow me to introduce to you the gentleman who's been behind our series of Outwitting the Devil, again, the book by Napoleon Hill. He has studied at the University of Wyoming, Northwest College, and Stanford University, and works at making a difference, teaching people how to create an entrepreneurial lifestyle of fun, profit, freedom, and impact. And his mission is to help you create an authentic life of freedom of your choosing and on your own terms. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. Without further ado, please welcome our professor for Outwitting the Devil, Mr. Dana Scranton.
Well, thank you, Craig. Always appreciate those extremely passionate professional introductions. I mean, it's like we got to hire you out for introductions, television commercials. You're about to hear this commercial, just lay it on me. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are down to our last episode. And today's episode is going to be one that really is a summary. There are three different videos or audios that we'll go through today, and they are summarizing what it is we've gone through over the past several weeks. Now, it's not everything, but what it does do is put a nice cap on the message. So we're going to get into those shortly. And as usual, I'd like to pop up the slide deck here to get things going. And bear with me while I find the appropriate button. There we go. And we'll just crank on and make sure that's selected. There we go. Okay, so today the three sections that we're going to cover are not all in the book. The summary is somewhat similar to what you'll hear today in the audio, but not identical. And then in the audio, these two, Afterward and In Reflection, these are not in the book. And I find both of these to have some very significant profundities that will help us digest, if you will, some of the thoughts and ideas that you've picked up over the past several weeks. And I also want to thank you for being here, for being in attendance, and taking the time to learn this, because for me, it really helped solidify a lot of the concepts and ideas that I picked up from listening to the audio and reading the book. But until you actually share it with somebody, you don't necessarily get as much out of it as you do, as if you were to just read the book or listen to the audio. You get more out of it teaching it. So I want to thank you for that. And one of the things that you can look forward to over the next few weeks is I've been compiling in Evernote the kind of the summaries of each one of these episodes that we've gone through. And I'm going to put that into a little book, a primer in PDF format. And when that's done, I'll upload that to the community so you can get a hold of that when it shows up. And really what that'll be is a compilation of not only what we've talked about and learned in this series, but also some of the ideas and thoughts that I recorded independently, in Evernote. That's how I take all my notes. And then we'll put that up, and that will, hopefully that'll be useful to you. So one of the things that I think we can all agree on is that what this has done is show us that we have the right message at the right time. And that's been articulated a number of times over this series, how the content of this book, written back in the late 20s and early 30s, not brought forward until 2011, it's like the book was written for us now in the 21st century, here in the 26s, if you will. And also the whole idea that the concepts in this book are relevant, regardless of when they were written. It's like they were written for us. And that's the very kind of information that we can use to go forward. And the way I look at it is it contains the seeds for positive change, restoration of individual purpose and prosperity, and generational impact and positive momentum for a world in need. Now, that may sound like a great big, profound statement, and it is, but the message behind it is it's all up to us. What we now have in our hands, what we have in the book, in this audio series, in this mastermind, is the seed to make a difference. And it's up to us to plant that seed, cultivate it, and then bring it to the world. Okay, so quick click on the mouse there. There we go. So here's one of the most commonly reproduced quotes in this whole series. One's dominating desires can be crystallized into their physical equivalent through definiteness of purpose, backed by definiteness of plan, with the aid of nature's laws of hypnotic rhythm and time. Now, at the beginning of this, had we just thrown that up, it would have made no sense. But now, hopefully, this summarizes what we now know, that everything that Napoleon Hill taught in this particular book and in his success series prior to that, Think and Grow Rich and the Laws of Success, it all hinges on having a dominating, definite purpose. And so if we leave nothing else untouched, it would be teaching people that. We're not going to leave the concept that they can go through life without a purpose untouched. It's our purpose, if you will, one of our purposes, to bring the whole idea of purpose to humanity so they understand it's not just about feeling good or my purpose in life is to be liked. No, your purpose in life is to make a difference. Figure out how you're going to do that. Now, one of the things Napoleon Hill states, as you will, is the story of my interview with the devil is now in your hands. That's us. The benefit you will receive from it will be in exact proportion to the thought it inspires within you. The thought it inspires within you. So over this series, I've written down a lot of thoughts that were inspired within me, and I hope you've done the same, because this book is filled with seeds of inspirational thought. One of the things that Michael Bernard Beckwith, who you will hear from here shortly, stated was, Hill's works are profound and powerful in teaching people to break free from conditional belief systems and live life in all of its richness, its exquisite beauty and joy, freely delivering their gifts, talents, and skills. So what this says is Napoleon Hill has devoted his life not to making money, but to teaching people how to make a difference, teaching people how to make an impact on the world through their own personal journey of purpose. That's powerful. Every one of us has that very opportunity before us. Finally, his philosophies and teachings deliver how to live principles, beginning with one's interior being, that is, one's inner state of consciousness, inviting us to give outer expression to our highest potential, not only for our own benefit, but for all humankind. And this repeats a theme that we have talked about time and time again, and it's one of Robert's core values, and it is that you're here to help people. Helping yourself to help yourself is all fine and good, but unless you're helping somebody out there, the true value will never accrue. So that's what we're here to do. And with that said, roll it, Robert.
Summary. 3 things connected with my interview with the devil interest me most. These 3 factors interest me because they have been the most important influences in my own life, a fact which any listener of my story can easily discern. The 3 important factors are the habit of drifting, the law of hypnotic rhythm through which all habits are made permanent, and the element of time. Here is a trio of forces which hold inviolate the destinies of all men. The three take on a new and more important meaning when they are grouped and studied as a combined force. It takes but little imagination and scarcely any understanding of natural laws for one to see that most of the difficulties in which people find themselves are of their own making. Moreover, difficulties seldom are the outgrowth of immediate circumstances. They are generally the climax of a series of circumstances which have been consolidated through the habit of drifting and with the aid of time.
Most of the difficulties in which people find themselves are of their own making. Many people today have a victim mentality, which they use as an excuse to not take responsibility for their own lives.
Samuel Insull did not lose his $4 billion industrial empire as the result of the Depression. He began losing it long before the Depression, when he became the victim of a group of women who flattered him into turning his talents from public utilities to grand opera. If ever a man in a high position in the financial world went down because of the power of drifting, hypnotic rhythm, and time, that man was Samuel Insull. I am writing from accurate knowledge of Mr. Insull and the cause of his troubles dating from the time that I served with him during the World War to the time of his ill-advised attempt to run away from himself.
Samuel Insull moved from England to the United States in 1881 to become the private secretary of Thomas Edison and rose to become president of Chicago Edison Company in 1892. By 1907, he had taken control of Chicago's transit system. By 1912, he was operating several hundred power plants. He vigorously promoted the stock of his holding companies. When they collapsed in 1932, he fled to Europe. Extradited in 1934, he was tried 3 times for fraud, violation of bankruptcy laws, and embezzlement, but was acquitted each time. Hill gives us an inside look at the other reasons for his collapse and fall from grace. Today, you instantly know the name Edison, but probably do not recognize Insull.
Henry Ford went through the same depression that swept Mr. Insull under, but Ford came out on top without a scratch. Do you want to know the reason? I'll tell you. Ford has the habit of not drifting on any subject. Time is Ford's friend, because he has formed the habit of using it in a positive, constructive manner with the aid of thoughts of his own making, woven into plans of his own creation. Take any circumstance you wish, measure it with reference to its relationship to the habit of drifting, hypnotic rhythm, and time, and you may ascertain accurately the cause of all success and all failure. Franklin D. Roosevelt went into office with a bang during his first term. He had but one major purpose in mind, and that was very definite. It was to stop the stampede of fear and start people to thinking and talking in terms of business recovery instead of business depression. In carrying out that purpose, there was no drifting. The forces of the entire nation were consolidated and moved as one to help carry out the president's definite purpose. For the first time in the history of America, the newspapers of all political leanings, the churches of all denominations, the people of all races and colors, and the political organizations of all brands united themselves into one stupendous power for the sole purpose of helping the president restore faith and normal business relationships in the country. In a conference held between the president and a group of emergency advisors a few days after he went into office, I asked him what was his major problem. He replied, "It is not a question of majors and minors. We have but one problem, and that is to stop fear and supplant it with faith." Before the end of his first year in office, the president had stopped fear and supplanted it by faith, and the nation was slowly but surely on the way out of the jungle of depression. By the end of his first term, mark well the element of lapse of time, the president had so effectively consolidated the forces of American business and private life that he had an entire nation in back of him, ready, willing, and enthusiastically desirous of following his lead, no matter which way he went. These are facts well known to everyone who reads newspapers or listens to the radio.
Like all of us, Napoleon Hill lived in a political environment that affected everyone. We often think of ourselves as victims of the media or the political system or other outside forces. Hill is showing us how to rise above victimhood, another of the devil's tools, and take responsibility for all our choices.
Then came another presidential election and the opportunity for the people to express their faith in their leader. They expressed it in a landslide without precedent in American politics, and the president went into office a second time with an almost unanimous electorate vote, with only 2 states meekly dissenting. Now observe how the wheel of life began to reverse itself and turn back in the other direction. The president changed his policy from definiteness of purpose to indefiniteness and drifting. His change of policy split the powerful labor group and turned more than half of it against him. It split the almost solid following he held in both houses of Congress, and more important than all this, it split the American people into pro- and anti-groups, with the result that about all the president had left of his original political assets was his $1,000,000 smile and his ready handshake. Obviously not enough to enable him to regain the power he once wielded in American life. Here, then, we have an excellent example of a man who skyrocketed to great power through definiteness of purpose and belly flop to the starting point by his habit of drifting. In both his rise and his fall can be seen clearly the operation of the principles of drifting and non-drifting reaching a climax through the power of hypnotic rhythm and time.
Here, then, we have an excellent example of a man who skyrocketed to great power through definiteness of purpose and belly flopped to the starting point by his habit of drifting. Take a moment to think of other people, in the public eye or in your circle of influence, who achieved great success only to lose it later because of drifting.
All my life, the devil had a dramatic story to tell of his dealings with me. He saw me drift in and out of scores of business opportunities for which many would have given a king's ransom. He saw me drifting in my policy of relating myself to others, particularly in my lack of caution in business dealings. The circumstance which saved me from fatal control of the law of hypnotic rhythm was the definiteness of purpose with which, at long last, I dedicated my entire life to the organization of a philosophy of individual achievement. I drifted at one time or another on all my minor whims and endeavors, but my drifting was offset by my major purpose, which was sufficient to restore my courage and start me once more in the quest of knowledge every time I was defeated in connection with my minor aims. I learned something of the hazardous nature of the habit of drifting while engaged in analyzing more than 25,000 people in connection with the organization of the law of success. These analyses showed that only 2 out of every 100 have a definite major aim in life. The other 98 were caught by the habit of drifting. It seems more than a coincidence that my analyses clearly corroborated the devil's claim that he controls 98 out of every 100 people because of their habit of drifting. Looking back over my own career, I can see clearly that I could have avoided the majority of the temporary defeats with which I met if I had been definitely following a plan for the attainment of my major purpose in life. From my experience in having analyzed the problems of more than 5,000 families, I know definitely that the majority of married people who get out of harmony with each other do so because of the accumulation of a great number of little circumstances in their married relationship, which could have been cleared up and disposed of as they arose if there had been a definite policy to do so. They do not live their married life with definiteness of purpose. So the story has gone, all back down the ages. The man with the most definite plan and purpose and the most power rides on to victory. The others scurry for cover and get crushed under the heels of those who are more determined. The answer is not hard to find. There is no use looking toward high heaven for it. For my part, I would prefer to seek the answer from the devil, for he would tell me quickly enough that victory goes to the people who know what they want and are determined to have it. They have mastered the habit of drifting. They have definite policies, definite plans, and definite objectives. Their opposition, which may outnumber them very greatly, has no chance against them because the opposition has no plan, no purpose, no policy except that of drifting along, hoping that something may turn up to help them. In those 3 brief sentences, you have the sum and the substance of the difference between success and failure, power and lack of it. We come now near to the end of our visit through this book. If we were to try to state in one brief sentence the most important part of that which I have tried to convey through the book, it would be something like this. One's dominating desires can be crystallized into their physical equivalents through definiteness of purpose backed by definiteness of plans with the aid of nature's law of hypnotic rhythm and time. There you have the positive phase of the philosophy of individual achievement I've tried to describe through this book, brought down to an irreducible minimum of brevity and simplicity. If you expand the philosophy for the purpose of adapting it to the circumstances of life, you find that it is as broad as life itself, that it covers all human relationships, all human thoughts, aims, and desires. So here we are, at the end of the strangest of all the thousands of interviews I have had with the great and the near great, over a period of 50 years of labor in my search for the truths of life that lead to happiness and economic security. How strange indeed that after having had active cooperation from men such as Carnegie, Edison, and Ford, I should have been compelled, finally, to go to the devil for a working knowledge of the greatest of all the principles uncovered in my quest for truth. How strange that I was forced to experience poverty and failure and adversity in 100 forms before being given the privilege of understanding and using a law of nature which softens the thrust of these wicked weapons or wipes them out altogether. But the strangest of all this dramatic experience which life has provided me is the simplicity of the law through which, if I had understood it, I could have transmuted my desires into substantial form without having to undergo so many years of hardship and misery. I find now, at the end of my interview with the devil, that I had been carrying in my own pockets the matches with which the fires of adversity were being touched off. And I find, too, that the water with which those fires were finally extinguished was at my command in great abundance. I searched for the philosopher's lodestone with which failure may be converted into success, only to learn that both success and failure are the results of day-to-day evolutionary forces through which dominating thoughts are pieced together bit by bit and woven into the things we want or the things we do not want, according to the nature of those thoughts. How unfortunate that I did not understand this truth from the time that I reached the age of reason, for if I had understood it then, I might have been able to go around some of the hurdles I've been forced to jump as I walked through the valley of the shadow of life. The story of my interview with the devil is now in your hands. The benefits you will receive from it will be in exact proportion to the thought it inspires in you. To benefit from listening to the interview, you need not agree with every portion of it. You have only to think and to reach your own conclusions concerning every part of it. How reasonable that is. You are the judge and the jury and the attorney for both the prosecution and the defense. If you do not win your case, the loss and the cause thereof will be yours.
One's dominating desires can be crystallized into their physical equivalents through definiteness of purpose, backed by definiteness of plans, with the aid of nature's law of hypnotic rhythm and time. Napoleon Hill wanted to share this message with the world in the 1930s, but instead it was hidden away in a vault, to be finally uncovered and shared with you now in 2011, for a reason. Will you realize you are carrying in your own pockets the matches with which the fires of adversity are being touched off, and find, too, that the water with which those fires can be finally extinguished is at your own command in great abundance. And then find your definiteness of purpose, create a definite plan, engage the aid of nature's law of hypnotic rhythm, and use the asset of time to assist you in reaching your greatest success.
Afterward, by Michael Bernard Beckwith. Whether you have listened to this entire book or only a few of its pages before turning to this afterword, you will have realized that if the historical names, dates, and events in this book were replaced by those of our current times, little has changed. From Hill's description of media propaganda, the conditioning that children receive in school, the fear-based teachings preached by religions, people's poor diet and health habits, to the challenging economic climate, little seems to have shifted in our collective consciousness, and therefore in our collective experience. The good news is that it is never too late for a new beginning, for a renaissance in consciousness. As Mr. Hill reminds us, I have also discovered that there comes with every experience of temporary defeat and every failure and every form of adversity the seed of an equivalent benefit. Our path is seemingly composed of a polarity of both failure and success. A lighter way of putting it might be that Hill's principles for living teach us how to fail successfully. This is a paradox understood by the spiritually mature, those whom he describes as having risen above the hypnotic rhythm and discovered their other self, which can also be identified as the self of the self, the higher self, or the authentic self. It is encouraging that many of today's spiritual, philosophical, self-help, and even scientific authors share Hill's view of what he calls definiteness of purpose, or in current parlance, intention setting. When it is our intention to wake up from the hypnotic rhythm of living, what the Hindus call delusion and the Buddhists call illusion, individual and collective consciousness expands. We, along with our global family, benefit. Hill's integrity shines through his description of what it means to manifest success. In fact, he unhesitatingly announces that any man can avail himself of the benefits of his other self, as long as he is not steeped in greed. This spiritually dignified statement elevates success to a matter of consciousness. That is, success does not necessarily mean that he who has the most toys wins. Hill thus eliminates confusing spiritual awakening with the capacity to manifest things in one's life, for there is never enough of more. We are also taught the importance of awareness, of mindfulness, an activity of consciousness abhorred by Hill's devil, who delights in using people's lack of thinking for themselves to his advantage. Consciously observing the mind and its capacities is to look at it with respect, compassion, gratitude, for it is God's gift to us. Mind not only forms our inner landscape, it creates our outer circumstances. Let us not fight with the mind. Let us appreciate its nuances, its intuitions, its utmost capacities, with the understanding that mind is the key to being self-directed, self-empowered, self-confident. Next to drifting, the most dangerous human trait Hill describes is the lack of caution, or what we might call a lack of discernment. Discernment is a relative of wisdom which causes us to think of the repercussions before we take action, as well as to honestly observe the results of our choice-making. Thus, we may create our own path to freedom. Hill's teachings are most often associated in the minds of his modern-day readers with prosperity, which translates as money in one's individual coffers. But truth be told, he has shared with the world his wisdom of how to live principles, beginning with one's interior being, one's inner state of consciousness, inviting us to give outer expression to our highest potential not only for our own benefit, but for all humankind. I wish to add that it was a wisdom-guided choice on the part of the Napoleon Hill Foundation to entrust this precious manuscript to the able hands of Sharon Lechter. Her many years of deeply studying Napoleon Hill's truth principles, and more importantly, her practice of them, has made her a perfect candidate to now offer this manuscript to the world. May all Hill's readers break free from conditional belief systems and live life in all of its richness, its exquisite beauty and joy, freely delivering their gifts, talents, and skills on this planet we call home. Peace and richest blessings to you. Michael Bernard Beckwith. Michael Bernard Beckwith is the author of Spiritual Liberation, Fulfilling Your Soul's Potential.
Throughout Napoleon Hill's writings, there is a strong spirituality present, informing his methods and his morality. In many places in the present book, Outwitting the Devil, this religious foundation for his belief system is perhaps at its most explicit. Some of his statements about evil and fear, about indefiniteness and drifting, derive from an American religious tradition that dates back at least to the transcendentalism of Ralph Waldo Emerson in the mid-19th century. Currents in American spirituality in Hill's day during the writing of this book in the late 1930s included Norman Vincent Peale, Emmett Fox, and in popular inspirational fiction, Lloyd C. Douglas. The very personal Christian evangelism of Amy Semple McPherson and Billy Sunday were also still omnipresent in the media and public consciousness of the era. For Hill, however, the stature of some of the titans of industry and finance of the time achieved a kind of religious validation and served to inspire his own thought and action, and he urged others to look at these men, and all were men, as models of successful moral behavior that yielded personal success as well as general good. The Great Depression was for Napoleon Hill in great measure a moral failure. What would he say about our current crises in financial markets? The near collapse of the banking system in 2008 and the subsequent severe recession that has affected the lives of everyone who will pick up this book in 2011 and beyond? His pantheon included Carnegie, of course, Edison, Ford, and Rockefeller. Each of these tycoons has been subsequently analyzed and reanalyzed by historians, economists, and biographers, and their personal flaws placed in the glare of public scrutiny. To Hill, they were not historical figures, but contemporary leaders on the world stage, as were Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini, Franklin Roosevelt, and Winston Churchill. He did not critique Rockefeller's ruthless competitiveness, and he was probably unaware at the time of Ford's vitriolic anti-Semitism. For Hill, American society and the free market system held the best hope for the world as it teetered on the brink of conflagration, and even with the evident imperfections of his native country, what he saw as a susceptibility to the devil's machinations, there was nothing on earth that could compare to it. For individuals who made the personal choice to succeed in life, who resisted the temptations and the weaknesses of irreligion and sought instead the help of God, called by various names in the book, there was no limit to how far they might go. Limits were self-imposed or imposed by the negative outside force of evil, personified by the devil. So what is Hill's religion? Frankly, that's not important to me. As much as I have been influenced by Napoleon Hill's philosophy and fascinated by his life, it has never mattered to me what church he attended or whether he attended any church at all. More important is the question, what is he teaching us today about the role of faith in our lives? The answer to that question is for you to decide. I think it is a foundational issue that affects every line he writes. After all, he chose to frame this book in the classical genre of the philosophical dialogue, and he sets up a sparring match with the most vivid anti-religious figure in all of literature, from the Bible through Milton through C.S. Lewis. And I continue to be fascinated by this choice, for it allows Hill to express, in a very readable style, his own deeply held beliefs and theories about human behavior. It holds profound lessons for us all. As you go forward in your life and find obstacles in your way, it may serve you to review Hill's 7 principles for outwitting the devil in your life. 1. Definiteness of purpose. 2. Mastery over self. 3. Learning from adversity. 4. Controlling environmental influence, associations. 5. Time, giving permanency to positive rather than negative thought habits and developing wisdom. 6. Harmony, acting with definiteness of purpose to become the dominating influence in your own mental, spiritual, and physical environment. 7. Caution, thinking through your plan before you act. In reviewing these 7 principles, you may identify and reveal what is holding you back from achieving your greatest success. It was a profound blessing to me to have the Napoleon Hill Foundation entrust this manuscript to my hands, a manuscript that was hidden and locked away for over 70 years, either by his wife or the devil himself. You decide. They say when a student is ready, the teacher will appear. Is it possible that Think and Grow Rich was the right message during the Great Depression, and that Outwitting the Devil is the right message for our current times? I believe we see God's hand at work, not the devil's. I believe Outwitting the Devil was not published until God felt it was the right message at the right time, now for us in 2011. It has definitely made a huge impact in my life, and I hope that you will find value in it for your life. May Napoleon Hill's words bring you hope, courage, and most of all, definiteness of purpose for your life. Be blessed. Sharon Lechter.
We hope you have enjoyed our presentation of Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil, The Secret to Freedom and Success, by Napoleon Hill, edited and annotated by Sharon Lechter. Copyright 2011 by the Napoleon Hill Foundation. Performed by Dan John Miller and Phil Gigante. Directed by Jim Bond. Engineered by Brandon Redeker. Performance copyright 2011 by Brilliance Audio, all rights reserved. For further information concerning this program or other Brilliance Audio titles, please call the following toll-free number, 1-800-222-3225, or visit our...
Okay.
Got to get all that advertisement in there.
Yeah, all the legal fine print. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, there you have the last
Yeah.
three, episodes, if you will. And I found them pretty profound. I mean, it was a good summary. So with that said, what inspirations, what thoughts, ideas, and benefits, if you will, that accrued over this series? Anybody have any inputs, any comments?
And as you are formulating that, you can go ahead and raise your hand. We'll call on you in the order in which we receive you. Go ahead and put your cursor in the middle of the screen where you see all of these pictures or these people. Then on the bottom, one of those buttons is raise hand. Click on that button and we will call on you in the order in which we receive you. Or if your camera's on right now, go ahead and raise your hand and then we'll go ahead and call on you. Dana, I just, from my own personal perspective, thank you for sharing all of this with us. It was definitely, it's one of those books, in my opinion, that you put on your shelf, but you don't really look at sometimes, but you need to look at. And you're going through this with us and taking a deeper dive into this series was just incredible. You learn so much, especially when you take the time to listen and go over exactly chapter by chapter everything that you have shared with us.
Well, you're certainly welcome. And I got as much, if not more, out of it just doing that. And, the book is the one thing that it answered. And Coach Bob asked this question probably right at the very beginning. It's, how does he know it's 98%? Well, they revealed that here, didn't they? It was 25,000 interviews that he did. 500 of those 25,000 had a definite purpose. That's 2%. So 98% of the people drifting through life. That was his conclusion. And I think that exists today. And we've kind of spoken about that in the past. But, I was just doing a little doom scrolling for giggles the other day, just looking for ideas more than anything. And I kept coming across the revelation that the messages that are being splattered all over Facebook, for example, they seem to come across like, here's something that you need to know. This is for your benefit, but really it's a mindless, in my opinion, it is mindless, purposeless vanity.
Yeah.
And it serves no purpose for the vast majority of us. And I think those are the 98 percenters. And so it really kind of brings a new perspective when you evaluate the information that's flowing out and hitting you. And you consider, well, does somebody have a definite purpose behind this that brings value to others? Well, some do, yes. Robert is an example of that. But it's something to be aware of, is that a lot of the purpose-driven rhetoric that we hear and see, really, it's more of an agenda than it is purpose.
All right. Well, speaking of Coach Bob, his hand just went up. So, Coach Bob, why don't you go ahead, open up, and please share with us.
Thanks, Dana. I really appreciate you going through this. This is a wonderful book. I learned a lot from this. And I think a lot of it is from back when Hill wrote this till now, I think it's even more distracting. You get more, people get more off track. There's just so much more, right? I mean, I've never seen so many TV stations that we've had before. That and on the internet, and it's so easy to get off track so fast, right? And all of a sudden you're doom scrolling for a half an hour, and you don't even know it. So
Yeah.
how do
Yeah.
you, I mean, how do people get out of that? I mean, even my kids, they take the phone to the table, and while we're eating, they scroll, they can't talk, and I could lose my phone for a day and it doesn't bother.
Well, I think maybe you've just written a prescription is, put into your schedule every day, leave your phone at home and go somewhere. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, my thing with that, Bob, is especially with children, the concept of expert from afar. It's just that the people that we love the most and care for the most, they just don't listen to us. So if you looked at your children or whoever you're trying to help, and what you do is maybe you even could use AI to do this, is you say, listen, my daughter's this age and this is what she does. What do you believe is a third party person and or book or podcast that would grab her attention to get her to understand that she needs to be aware of not spending time on stuff that's making her do this. So, the deal is people always try to learn stuff. We become aware. Dana did such an incredible job of helping us go through this information. And then usually your very first thought, other than implying it, is to make sure that you share it with others, so they stop doing it and find a definition of purpose. The thing that I love still to this day is J. Paul Getty, making the comment of it's so easy to be successful in the world because 98% of people are not doing anything.
Right. Right.
So there used to be this whole thing out there that has been proven wrong, that 10,000 hours is what is needed. So if you looked at a full-time job, 8 hours a day, and it was just Monday through Friday, they're looking at, with a great attitude, that you spend, that 10,000 hours, 5 years of mastering something. That could be true for the mastery thing, but now they're finding out that you could spend 18 minutes 3 times a week, and in 30 days, you're so above everybody else in that subject matter that it's ridiculous. And so even when I found Brendan Burchard, his thing was, listen, if you want to be an expert, just find the 3 most reviewed books on Amazon about it. So it doesn't make a difference what it is, but if you wanted to be an expert on something, find the 3 books that are the most reviewed, has the most 5-star reviews on them on Amazon. Read those books, and now you're in the top 0.01% of all the people on the planet. And that expert thing, whatever it is. And it's like, when you start realizing with this book, for me, not only did I already know that, whether people know the exact numbers, 95.5, 97.3, 98.2, it was very evident a few years ago where everyone was standing, and saying that it was 99.1. So that's where everybody was really getting upset. And I sort of think it's pretty funny that they were all upset at that time, but I don't know where those people went. You know what I mean? But it's like you got this whole group of people in the world that believe with everything in their being and their spirit and their soul that the reason that they are where they are right now is because of somebody else.
Oh, yeah,
That that
100%.
that just that drives me nuts, because even if it was so, all right, then that means now that you're aware that you're the 99 percenter, then there's unlimited info on YouTube to make sure that you could get out of that 99 into that 1%. And people keep saying all the time, I've had debates with my sons about this all the time. And they just, you become who you hang around. Part of this book was talking about your environment. And if you got the whole world telling you that the American dream or the dream of anybody in any country, it's just not available anymore, then you could go to the uneducated Henry Ford and just go, if you think that you can't, you're correct. And if you think that you can, you're correct. You got a uneducated guy that became one of the first billionaires that, you know, made it that simplistic. That simplistic. The other thing that really blew me away in this summary is this whole concept of, you know, Matt put it in here, you know, FDR, that, you know, to be a president in a time, I know we talked about this before, but Wallace Wattles wrote a book called The Science of Being Great. And he said in that book, the way to greatness is the service of many. It's the only way to greatness. But the people that he called out as being great are people that solve problems that they didn't get to look at somebody else and go, this is the way it's supposed to be done. So one of the people that he brought up is great is Abraham Lincoln. It's like, where do you go into the textbooks and the history to find out what you need to do about slavery? And 50% of the people in your country believe that it's a good thing, and 50% think it's not a good thing. Enough to cause a civil war, right? So when you find people that are constantly trying to figure out this deal, like, so FDR, all of a sudden, the Great Depression, the 30s come in, and all of a sudden, all the businesses and everything are having problems, and people are in soup lines. And it really was interesting to hear that the number one thing that he knew he needed to do is stop having people be in fear and to have them have hope and faith. I added the word hope, but it's like when you got a lot of people that all of a sudden believe something can happen. You know, me and Terry sometimes were just, it's total entertainment. You know, watch Bill Maher. And Bill Maher was making a big joke out of people going to the moon. He was going like, this is the most stupid thing in the world. If we really went to the moon in 1969, at least we're smart enough to land on the moon then. Why are everyone just excited because we went by the moon? It's like, you know, they didn't even do the same thing that we all got excited about. And one of the people said, I just believe that everybody that wanted to sort of got hope that all of us could be on the same page to do something. You know what I mean? And it was funny how fast Bill Maher went, hope? That's so stupid. You know what I mean? I'm going like, what? So, but he's the same person that believes everybody in the world is stupid. You know what I mean? So, you can't always say, well, listen, that's pretty cool. I loved it. I thought it was a pretty cool deal. But yeah, the only other thing I got out of here is for them to, I knew Napoleon Hill did a lot of research in Think and Grow Rich too. And he kept pulling up this Harvard study that they did that, you know, that if you put 100 people in a room and they all had to work around each other, out of that 100 people, there's 2 of them in that group that are pretty much running the show. And what was interesting about the study was the two people that always came out of the 100 weren't really people that had any experience or any kind of thing that they did in the past to give them that kind of confidence. It's just one of those things when you see a majority of people standing around really doing nothing but drifting. A lot of people think, oh my God, a definition of purpose, to be able to follow this, you know, to do it. if you are doing something consistent on a daily basis and didn't even put a time limit, you're going to be above, what's 98% of 8 billion? See, even if you stayed in the United States and just said, what's 2% of 330 million? It's like when you're playing around and you're in the top 5%, 3%, 2%, 1%, man, life is good. Because it's just no one else is trying. And they would rather, like what Dana brought up too, that right now there's people that get paid to do what is called clickbait. And that's exactly what it is. They get money by having somebody click on a site. So if they post on social media and say somebody died, and all you got to do is click on the link in the first comment, every person that clicks and goes to that website, that person gets paid. So now you got to be creative enough to figure out what gets the most clicks. And it's just like shock jocks. You know what I mean? Howard Stern back in the day. It's like, who were we talking to just recently? Oh, Matt. Matt was saying, listen, I sometimes watch something and I don't get into the entertainment of it. And I forget what we were watching. And I'm just going, it was the show that the necklace and the stuff, the old lady. And it's the newest one that we've been watching. But I was just saying, it looks like 3 or 4 or 5 people are all ranting, talking over each other, but everything that's coming out of their mouth is a lie. They're just, bullshitting.
Bad mistakes.
Yeah. And Matt just came out and said straight
Good
out.
show.
He goes, Matt comes out and says, listen, you know what? If you really looked at a person that was doing a movie or a sitcom or a television show on just real, truthfully, a life of a group of people, it would be the most boring show on the planet. Because most of people's lives on a day-to-day basis are just boring. There's nothing going on. So they, like Matt said, they over-exaggerate stuff. And the reason they over-exaggerate stuff is because then it's drama, and then you're actually going, "What? These people are stupid." You're actually engaged in it because you're going, "Why are these people acting this way?" And again, Matt always brings that to my attention. But even in today's day and age, trying to find people that are drifting and they're fearful and they're, FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and trying to get them to be aware enough that they have the ability to steer their lives in a positive manner. You know what I mean? And if they did it on a day-to-day basis, they hopefully would get a little more. So thank you, Dana. Yeah, you had anything to bring up? Yes.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's one of the things that we got out of this whole series is the knowledge that we have the ability to help others if we can help them to help themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that it's kind of a strange world we live in right now, but it's the seed of opportunity everywhere you look. And
If you want
98%.
if you really truly wanted, the thing that I always point to and to give people hope and faith is every year, because I love sports, every year records are being broken in every sport.
Mm-hmm.
And those records were broken by people seeing other people that were doing it when they were young and they got inspired. Dana, Daily Wisdom, I did a couple days ago. My wife and I watched a documentary, and it was called Born to Bowl. And what was amazing is they're following 4 or 5 people in a year of being professional bowlers. And the one thing that all the professional bowlers had in common is they were introduced to a bowling alley and a bowling ball when they were like from 18 months to 3 years of age. And as they became more professionals, they all either worked or pretty much lived in a bowling alley.
Yeah.
whether their parents bought one or their grandparents had one, and it was just very, very interesting to see that we were watching this young kid, and the first time that he bowled and got a strike, he said everybody in the bowling alley went crazy, and he was going like, that's pretty easy to get addicted to. And he was a young black guy. And he said there's not a lot of black people in bowling. And he consistently, I forget at such a young age, but like one year
games or something.
yeah, he bowled like 11 300 games in 1 year. A perfect game, all strikes. And people go, you need to go professional. And he never made the cut the whole year. To be that good. And now but there's something that we learned too, not to get off track, but there's this tournament of Masters in Reno, Nevada, that goes on for a month. So 4 separate tournaments, all that 1 month. And I forget what it was. It was like 84 games a tournament.
Yeah.
It was something crazy. I'm going, what is that, 300 games you had to bowl in 22 days or something like that? I'm going like, man, I don't know how many of you just went, well, let's just bowl one more time, one more game. And usually when you say bowl one more game, you are wore out. Because you're not used to it, right? It's like, wow, my ankles, my legs, my back, my arm. It's like, so, but sorry for getting off track there. But Dana, thank you again. I really love and appreciate you. When I reached out to you and you were gracious enough to say yes, and you've committed so many weeks to our family here. And yeah, I'm really excited about what's next. So all of you can put Dana in your prayers. I told him I wanted to do one of our next masterminds on his book. So let's all encourage him and give him thoughts and prayers for that because I can guarantee you there'd be a lot of wisdom in that book. So any last word, Dana?
Well, once again, thank you for everybody who participated and gave me inspiration to do this and inspiration to take the next step. Thank you, Robert, for all you've done and being the example that helped catalyze all this. Other than that, I just want everybody to take one thing from the book that you found that was impactful and inspiring and go use it. Just one thing, and share it.
Write it on a little sticky note and put it on your computer, your monitor, put it someplace where you can see it. So, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah, it shows up like that reel that you sent with Shetty, right?
Yeah, Greg sent that to me.
Yeah, and it's right there at the end. He's talking about just do one thing purposeful a day, and it'll defeat drifting. And you see the word drifting, you go, aha.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, just like everything else in life, when you see like no one's got a red VW, and until you buy one, and now it seems like everybody's driving one.
That's right. So yeah, you can be one of the people that make that happen. Makes everybody see a red VW.
Take care, you guys. Craig, any last words?
I think just to say to everybody, thank you so very, very much. The whole series that we completed here is going to be in the classroom. So if you missed a week or you want to go back and rewatch a week, chapter by chapter, audio chapter by chapter, it will be there in the classroom. We'll also post it and put it together in the same kind of format on YouTube. So we'll have that available also as a YouTube playlist. So we can share that with others as well outside of this group. But Dana, again, thank you so much.
Dana, do you have this series also on your YouTube channel?
It's there. I need to upload the final videos, but yes, it is.
I will send it as soon as Craig gets it to me.
Okay.
All right.
Fantastic. So,
All right. Thank you,
ladies,
folks.
thank you so much. And until next time, please be good to yourselves. Be cash. Bye-bye. There's a few things in the chat, the meeting chat. Click the three dots in the meeting chat and then click Save Chat to download to your computer. Until next time, everyone, thank you very, very much. Dana, thank you. And we look forward to seeing you next time as our professor on one of these great video series. Take care, everybody, and have a wonderful Wednesday.